In the years that I was in Haifa, I often had opportunity to talk to non-Baha'is, and there were different meetings, different parts of the city or country, and they would have invited, initiated by our non-Baha'i friends, that they were interested to know what is happening on Mount Carmel, and they would invite us, and the House of Justice would allow me to go and talk so that people are familiar with what is happening on Mount Carmel. And one of these events was that Rotarians of all the country of Israel, all of the Rotarians, they had a meeting in Haifa, in one of the hotels, I don't remember which one, and there was and they asked if I can go there and talk to the Rotarians about what is happening on Mount Carmel. I went together with Mr. Lincoln, the Secretary General of the Baha'i World Center, and we went there, and there was the ordinary meeting of the Rotarians, and they then, when it came to me to talk, they asked me, and I went there. And normally, considering we do not teach in Haifa or in Israel, Baha'is do not teach from the time of Baha'u'llah. That has been the recommendation, and even now it's the same thing. I focused on what we are doing on technical matters, on the issues of the city, the contribution that these projects are going to have for the environment and for the beautification of the city of Haifa, and all of that, and the whole project, how Baha'is all over the world are participating and helping to see these projects are done, what is Shrine of the Bab, and all those kind of things that all you know. Anyhow, after my talk was finished, normally those of you who know Rotary, they know that one of the Rotarians is asked to say some words and say a word of thanks to the speaker. Now, very distinguished Arab Israeli Christian, Mr. Khayat, that is one of the richest people of the city of Haifa, came to the platform and started with Ya Baha'ul Abha, Ya Aliyul Ala. I was so shocked. I said, oh my God, House of Justice is going to be very upset with us. We did something wrong. Why? I mean, it was not our intention. Then he said that, friends, because Mr. Sahba is a Baha'i, he does not talk about the Baha'i faith to us. But I am not a Baha'i. I want to talk to you about the Baha'i faith today. I was so, and Mr. Lincoln also was very hesitant. We were very anxious that what's going to say. Then he said 60 some years ago, in Iran, a king of kings, Shah-e-Shahan, decided to kill a prophet, the Bab, and to destroy his cause and persecute all of his followers. And so they put him in front of 750 soldiers and fire squad, and they shot him. There was only one of his disciples, only one of his believers, young man. He begged them to put him in front of his chest, so that the bullet that comes to him first comes to him. And they did so, and then they shot, and the bodies became one, and the blood, all of that. And Then he said they throw their body out and all of that. And then he said, many years later, Baha'u'llah, that he himself, the founder of the Baha'i faith, who himself was on the way to prison of Accra, stood on this mountain, on Mount Carmel, and showed with his own finger the place where his followers should bring the body of the Bab that has been hidden for all of those years, and built a monument of love and sacrifice on Mount Carmel. Then he said, we people of Haifa are honored. This is our dignity. This is our sharaf, the word that he used. This is our prestige, that this magnificent monument of love is on this mountain. And then he went on and on and on. He said has gone to the Temple of India and all of that. And he said how Baha'is. He also mentioned that how his father they lived in Haparsin Street where Abdul Baha lived. And he said how his father always told him that who was Abdul Baha, and what a wonderful man he was, and how much they loved him, and how much they would follow him and they would go after him and all of that. And he was such a light on that area and all of that. He said all of these stories. And then he ended that talk. And then was thinking that really the shrine of the Bab itself on that Mount Carmel is real symbol of the history of our Baha'i, of the faith, entire history of the faith. Imagine all of the religions of the past, from Jews, Christians, Muslims, their history is just very, very unreliable. In fact, there are serious doubts. The historians do not at all recognize a person in the name of Moses in Egypt. They don't recognize the time that any of the pharaohs was at that time was throwing the Jews out and this and that. Most of these are denied by many of the historians. History of Jesus has been written, even though just recently because I didn't come from the Christian background, I didn't know. Just recently I learned that none of the Bibles that we have is written by anyone who even met the Jesus. I have to mention that I'm so honored that my dear precious Mr. Mitchell is on the line. We are all very honored. Really, it's so grateful for you to be here, Mr. Mitchell. It's really, whatever I say is, he has witnessed, he has been my guide, he has been one of my really, the light of my life, and I'm so honored that he is here. Also Mrs. Mitchell, of course. And he knows all of this better than me, and I wish instead of me, he would have talked. Anyhow, none of the people that they wrote Bible, they even had met Jesus. All of these things was written years and years. The history of Islam that was written for the first time, the first document that refers to Muhammad was 150 years after his passing. So imagine the history of these faiths. But history of our faith, history of the Baha'i faith, it's amazing. Baha'u'llah himself asked Nabil to write that story. He said that he should write chapter by chapter and bring and read it for him. He heard it, then he corrected, and then he asked him to rewrite it. He correct that, and he would keep those chapters with him on his bed. He would keep it there, and these were there till end of his life. And then all the stories that you know, I don't want to mention about that, but I want to mention that that is why the history of the Baha'i faith, the history of the Nabil is so precious, so important. And the beloved Guardian, writing to the Baha'is of United States, has written, I think this is so important because we are mostly American here. You have to imagine. He says, feel impelled, appeal entire body American believers to henceforth regard Nabil's soul-stirring narrative as essential adjunct as to reconstructive teachings programs, as unchallengeable textbook in their summer schools, as source of inspiration in all literary and artistic pursuit, as an invaluable companion in items of leisure, in times of leisure, as indispensable preliminary to future pilgrimage to Baha'u'llah's native land, and as unfailing instrument to allay distress and resist attacks of critical, disillusioned humanity. This is what he has said about the Nabil narrative, and how important it is that we, especially our children, really learn about that. Mr. Faizi told me that when they were translating Nabil narrative to Persian, Mr. Ishraq Khavari, a very famous Baha'i scholar, have done that. He learned English in order to translate it, translate that book. And of course, he was a genius. He could learn a language in 6 months. And this is really true. He was like that. And then Mr. Faizi said, beloved Guardian would say that I wish they would have written the Nabil narrative for children, because adults, they can read English, they can read Arabic, they can learn all of that. But the children should learn that. If you are going to write it for Persians, write it for children. This was the importance of this book. And I think really the shrine of beloved Guardian in a shrine of the Bab on that mountain is not only the monument of sacrifice and love that is there, but also, and then Mr. Khayat at the end of his talk, he said, today, nobody knows where the grave of that King of Kings is. But people from all over the world, they come and they kiss these thresholds and they pay respect. And nobody knows that king. Anyhow, this was one story that I wanted to tell you. I'll go back to my talk. That's very interesting. I have to tell you this. Recently, I mentioned maybe in my previous talks, recently a very wonderful Baha'i of Australia, Mr. Michael Day, has written 3 volumes of books, has compiled really 3 volumes of book. One about the first one that I want to talk about it is about the journey to a mountain. It's called Journey to a Mountain. It's a journey of the remains of the Bab and Anis from that that channel of flood out of the city of Tabriz to Haifa and to Akka. Second volume is about the shrine of the Bab superstructure, and the third one is a sacred stairway. It's about the construction of the terraces of the shrine of the Bab. All 3 books are very, very interesting. If you have time and you are interested about books, still there are only few people that they are interested about books. I hope you are one of them. You can look at those books. Now, in this book, it's so interesting that how the body of the Bab was, and you know, Abdul Baha says in this book, it gives all of the references, that Abdul Baha taught that his main mission that Baha'u'llah wanted from him to do was to bring the body of the Bab to Holy Land. That was his main mission. The second one was to introduce the faith to the West. That both of them he did. But he, from the beginning, and his work, how he has done, how he operated to move this body from Iran to Haifa, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. The most important part of it, in my opinion, is that, first of all, the beloved God, Abdul Baha wanted that the body of the Bab should be moved with maximum respect. You cannot just carry like a box and put it on, I don't know, a horse or this or that and move it like that. It should come like a king. It should come like the way that they carried the, they call it running throne, that they used, maybe you have seen it in War of the Throne. It showed how the queens, they would carry, they were 2 people ahead, 2 people behind. They would carry this together. They would walk and they would carry the kings or queens. And Bab wanted, Abdul Baha wanted that the body be moved like this. So how they could do that? How you could cross a border in Iran where they were persecuting all the Baha'is and Babis at that time? How you could do this to be a secret? And it's very interesting. He said, imagine, Abdul Baha decided that the most notorious enemy of the faith should do it. Because nobody will, maybe nobody will doubt him. And that was who? Zillu Sultan, the most bloodthirsty person that killed so many of the Baha'is and all of that. One of his major trusted ministers was a Baha'i. So there's such a distinguished man, such a dedicated man that had gone right at that time, had gone to Holy Land for pilgrimage. And he was really the whole keeping all of the accounts of the prince and all of that. The minister that I'm talking to, the minister of Zillu Sultan. So the one that was supposed to carry the body went to him and told him gave him the letter of Abdul Baha that you have to carry the body of the Bab, your soldiers should carry. So he provided 8 soldiers, 4 to carry and 4 to be spare to come so that they can non-stop walk and carry. If they are tired, they can go and do that. And this way they moved the body to the Holy Land. And the story is very interesting because he had to, the number one, guess who were the number one danger in this operation? Baha'is. Because the minute they had a feeling, the minute that they heard the body of the Bab or the coffin is coming or this or that, immediately they would have rushed to see and all of that. And whenever they hide it in one place, next day they would have discovered. And then poor Abdul Baha had to make another plan to move it from them because they would have, they were so excited they would go for prayer and this and that. Anyhow, talk about wisdom. This way, and Abdul Baha had to give them codes, secret codes, how to move, to the extent that, because at the same time, covenant breakers were behind, they wanted to steal the body. And so Abdul Baha would write to them, to the person that was doing this. He would say, I told him that anything I tell you from now onward, you have to do opposite. So that if I tell you to bring the body from the sea, come from the road. If I say come from the road, come from the sea. So he was doing this way so that in this way, because he knew that his correspondence will be accessed by those people. Anyhow, forget about this story. This I just said as a beginning of our talk. Now we go back to the story of the shrine and my work. I told you last time that how the plans for town planning scheme and how the other building permits and all of those things was approved by the very miraculous operation through the city of Haifa, city council, as well as district committee, and everything was finally approved and all of that. And normally, as per law, when everything is done, you have to publish this change in the town planning scheme. and this approval should be officially published in the official government journal for the attention of the public, so that, and also it should be placed in certain boards in city and in different parts of the city, so that people know that such and such thing is happening, and they have 60 days to object. And it is your duty to respond to all of those things and satisfy them. Now, I was so sure that I have done so much preparation work, and we have met everybody that one way or another they could have objected or whatever. So I was fully confident that nothing will happen. Everything is smooth, will go through. As Baha'u'llah doesn't want anything to go very easy, and he wants to make it interesting for us to run. Next day, we have another 59 days. Next day, my local architect came to my office, my Israeli architect that was helping me in this process, came to my office. He was so just color white, excited, upset. And he said, Mr. Saba, we are in trouble. We are in trouble. We are in trouble. I said, calm down. What is the situation? He said, number one powerful organization in the country, that is Israel Land Authority, has put an objection on your plan in writing, that the large piece of land that all of the 9 terraces above the shrine of the Bab is touching it, they are partly in it, and even building of the Center of Study of the Text is partly in it, belongs to them, not to you. How is possible? You have all of these properties. Beloved Guardian has published that the list of the Baha'i properties in a book. He has published it in a volume of the Baha'i Faith. Everything is there. This picture, these properties, this map is, 40 years, 50 years old. How is this possible? No, then he told me that, there was a law at the time of the Israel independence, when the government of Israel was established. Many of the Arabs, they escaped from Israel, although government would announce on streets that please don't go, there is nothing against you, we are all of those things. But many of those people escaped out, and they went to the countries that were in fact considered enemy by Israel. They went to those countries. So Israel government announced that they will give a certain period of years, I don't remember if it's 30 years or something like that. For 30 years, they are welcome to come back and claim their properties. If they didn't come but by that date, and if that person is in the country of enemy, that property will belong to the Israel Land Authority. So you know that these properties on Mount Carmel were mostly bought by Baha'is, that they were at the time of Abdul Baha, they were in Holy Land, and with maximum respect and humble way, whatever they had, encouraged by Abdul Baha, they would buy some pieces of land very cheap at that time. In, $1,000, you could buy a huge piece of land there. So they would buy that land, and they kept it there. They were there. And whenever they left the country, they left Holy Land, because many of the Baha'is, they came for some time, and whenever they went, they gave a letter. They would give a letter in Persian, simple letter. I've seen some of them. Very simple handwriting that says that this piece of land belongs to the, if it is worthy of the approval of beloved master, it belongs to the faith and this and that, and to be used for the, it's a loving letter. It is not a document. So they have given that, but these properties, in fact, at that time, even today, many of those properties is not yet settled, so they don't have really document. So this was our only document in Persian, and the name of this person, because he was a Persian, and they were all from Muslim background, so their name was Hussein, Hassan, these kind of Persian, Arab names. And so a person with Arabic name, which easily can be considered as Arab, had left the country, and many of them, they went to Jordan, they went to Beirut, they went to all of these places. They have gone to the countries that they, at that time, they didn't consider, because they were not Israelis, they were Baha'is, mostly Iranians. So they went there and they were living there. Now, the government of Israel, all of these years, they consider them, this is an Arab that has left the country at that time and did not come back in 30 years. So on that certain time, and because we also at the same time, we were not doing much there, because there was no development, there was no garden, there was no fence, there was nothing. So the property was there. Always Baha'is consider that this is theirs. Also, we do not normally, because of a religion, religions don't pay tax in Israel. So we were not paying tax, property tax. So in reality, we did not have any documents to claim ownership. And government considered this theirs, and they declared ownership. And now many years have passed. We have not objected. Nobody has objected. It's theirs. Now, my architect friends told me that, Mr. Sabbagh, you can do nothing, nothing. This organization is so stubborn and so nationalistic, and they are not going to give a piece of land to you that owned by non-residents and non-Israeli, and as such, you can only buy it if you want. It will be fortune, because now the piece of land on Mount Carmel, on that place, it's right. So, my God, what can I do? I was so shocked. I was so upset that, my God, what are we going to do now? I feel I could not even dare to go and report to the House of Justice. Now, Mr. Mitchell is not going to tell any one of the members of the House of Justice. Now, I said, for God, I mean, what? I was thinking how I can go to the House of Justice and say that, sorry, we cannot build the terraces. Finish. We cannot build the building of the ark, and we cannot build the terraces, and say, it's not possible. What can I do? I tell my local architect that we have to do something. We have to go. He said, Mr. Sabbagh, you cannot do anything. You cannot do anything. You're wasting your time. These people are not going to even listen to you. They're not going to even meet you. I said, no, I cannot go to the House of Justice and report such a thing. I have to tell them that what I have done, at least I should have done something, and go and say that. So we have to go and meet the head of this department. Anyhow, who is the head of this department? Because we have to deal with the architectural department. There was an architect lady, Israeli lady, that was the chairman of the office, that organization. And he said that they told me that you have to meet this person. So I started calling their office. Today I called, they said she's not in the office. Tomorrow, she's not in the office. Day after tomorrow, she's not in the office. Almost 10 days I'm calling, they said she's not in. Eventually I said, for God's sake, I have something very important. What should I do? What can I do? They said she's traveling, she's on holiday, she's traveling, and she will come back in 1 month. So I said, can you give me an appointment after 1 month? Give me an appointment. They said, okay, give me one appointment on that time for such and such day. So we went, and that day, very, really full of anxiety and stress. I asked my Israeli architect also to come with me, because all of them, they speak Hebrew. And so we said, you please come with me and you translate, and we go there and see. So we went to the meeting, and we sat. Secretary welcomed us to go to the office. We sat there. And then after some time, this lady, oh no, first 4 gentlemen, one after another, 4 gentlemen with ties and with Samsonite, with this much files, they came, they sat on the table, and later on I found that they are all lawyers. And we did not have any lawyer. Each lawyer will come and say that this letter of my beloved master, may I be worthy of that, you accept my property, this and that. This is not the way to deal with them. So it's waste of money to call a lawyer. So we went, only I was with Mr. Rapoport. We were there, we sat, and these people came and sat, and they did not look friendly to us at all. Eventually, this lady came. This lady came and sat, and she was in rush because she was doing work. She said, oh, I'm so sorry. I understand that it's for a long time you are trying to get hold of me, and I was traveling. She said, I was in India. I was in India. She said, you have a wonderful Baha'i temple there. Have you seen it? I said, yes, I've seen it. I am the architect of that building. She said, what? I said, yes, I'm architect of that temple. I had a small book of the temple, the Dawning Place of Remembrance of God. In my file that I had with me, I put it on the table and I showed it to her. Oh my God. She said, oh, really? Then she started talking to these lawyers that this building is so magnificent, so this, so that. Then suddenly she stopped and said, are you going to build a building so magnificent on this mountain? Is that what Baha'is are going to do? I said, yes, yes. They are going to do something better. This is Shrine of the Bab. This is a holy place. This is so. Baha'is are going to make magnificent development. She thought, and then she said, you know what? I think if Baha'is are going to build something so beautiful, we should not stop them. Wait. She said, wait here. I have to go and talk to chairman. I have to go and talk to chairman. She said, you have not said anything yet. We have not said anything. So she said, thank you so much, please. Anyhow, she left. And we sat with these 4 lawyers and we talked about weather and how beautiful is everything. Haifa is this and that. And we were wasting time. She came back. She came back and she said that, I talked to the chairman. We have decided that if Baha'is are going to build such magnificent development on this mountain, that will bring that much crowd and people and attention that has done in India, we should not stop that operation. She said, we will not withdraw our claim of ownership. However, we withdraw our objection. I said to my friend, what does it mean? I mean, you're not claiming. What does it mean? She said, it's good, it's quiet, it's good. Then it was finished. She said, no, please go, we will take action. We came out. Mr. Rapoport is my consultant. His eyes was like this. He said, my God, Mr. Sabat, this was a miracle. This was a miracle. He said, why this lady should go to India now? What? I said, believe me, I was cursing all heaven that why this woman has gone to India. I didn't know that Baha'u'llah sent him to India to just change her mind. Anyhow, so she said that this is miracle, Mr. Saba. Believe me, this is a miracle. And really, in this way, this fellow, next week, my architect came and said that they have officially withdrawn their objection. They have withdrawn their objection. I said, what does it mean? He said, go and build it. If they are not objecting, you have given permission, go and build it. So we went on and we built it. Of course, now that we have all of those terraces and all of those developments and everything and those buildings on the mountain, for sure, the ownership of the land is established very clear. And of course, this is in future, all of the situation of all of these properties will be settled, no doubt, later on. But this building this was really a magnificent thing that happened right there in front of us. And we were so moved by this miracle. I tell you another story that is related to this subject, that how my connection with the Temple of India had such a wonderful contribution, simplifying the work in Haifa. In Haifa, there was one telephone organization in Israel. There is only one telephone system at that time. I don't know now. That was not a period of cell phone business and all of that. But there was only one telephone organization. And this was very, very, very powerful because of they would dictate all of the schedules of all the buildings. And imagine we had decided to lower Hatzianut Street to do, and this was approved that we lower the Hatzianut Street. But now the mayor of Haifa told me that, Mr. Saba, now you have the permission to lower the street, but you are in trouble with telephone department. They will dictate, he said that they approve all of my plans. They approve everything that I do, they should approve it. It will not start working unless they give you time. Because you think they are going to so easily accept that they lower, they change 100,000 telephone cables? Because all of the telephone, there's thousands of lines that comes out of down that street. You think they are going to lower it so easy? This is a massive work, and they are not going to do it so easy. This is mayor told me, said that they are your first problem. I tried, we had an Israeli electrical engineer, and that was Mr. Hessel. He was helping me with all of the permits with the telephone departments, electric departments, security, as all of those things, that anything related to electricity. So I talked to him and all of that. He said there is this department has a main engineer that he is in charge of everything. And he said he is the hardest man on earth. You cannot talk to him. You cannot talk to him. Before you say hello, he will start shouting at you. I said, what should we do? He said, you have to go very politely, put the application on the table and go and wait till they call you. And I said, please put the application there and we go till they call us. So he did. No, this is our number one operation on Hatzianut Street. Before we do anything, we have to build the new services from telephone, everything. We have to run the cables, we have to run the electricity wires, everything. And then in one operation, disconnect the old system, connect to the new system. That's what we have to do. And then we can start lowering of the street. First, we have to lower the cables and all of that. But we don't have permit. It's not coming. This gentleman doesn't answer. Every time I would call this Mr. Hessel, that please, Mr. Hessel, what's happening? What's happening? He said that, no, you have to wait. I said, Mr. Hessel, please go there and talk to this gentleman, please. After lots of bargaining and all of these things, he said he went there and came back. He said, Mr. Saba, he threw me out of his office. He said, you know how much trouble I have. Now you want me to come and change all of these telephones are all working right now. Talk about, I have thousands of telephones that they don't work at all. I have to deal with that matter. Now you want me to to disconnect lots of telephones that they are working and change it. Why? I don't have time. Go. Mr. Hessel says, Mr. Hessel, this is not the way. We have a serious operation. I have to sign a contract. We have to start work. The contractor is already waiting. What we should do? He said, can we go together and meet this man? He said, Mr. Saba, believe me, it's a big mistake. Don't do it. You will be sorry. I said, that's not something we can do. There is nothing we can do. We have to go and do it. He will shout at me. I have to swallow it. What I can do? We have to do it. We have to go there. He said, okay, I'm telling you, you will really insult yourself. You will see. So we went together with Mr. Hessel to his office. A small one room full of files and papers, and 20 people going in, going out, going in, going out, all of these things. And I went in, and he saw Mr. Hessel. The minute he saw him, he realized what is the subject. Then he looked at my face, and I said, good morning. That's it, nothing more. He started shouting with such a loud voice. He was shouting, looking at Mr. Hessel. And I could understand Hebrew. I couldn't talk, but I could understand what he says. He was saying that these useless foreigners, they come here, they dictate our life, they are making our life miserable, and they don't learn our language. And Mr. Hessel, poor man, he was a very polite man, God bless him. He's passed away. He was very kind and very a gentleman, really. He was quiet. He was looking down and quiet. And he couldn't know what he should tell me. As he was, I really felt I can do nothing. And I didn't have anything in my hand. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a file. I didn't have anything. He had just gone there. I have a wallet. I have a wallet in my pocket. And normally at that time, I had a small calendar, Baha'i calendar, on the Baha'i temple in India. They used to print that and they would send it for me. There was one picture of the temple in front and calendar, Baha'i calendar behind it. It's just like a small card, business card, a little bigger than business card. I took my wallet out, and I took this one. And because he was shouting so loudly, I had to shout like that. I put it on the table like this, and in front of him. And he looked. He said, Maze, what is this? The minute I said that, he said, what is this? I said, look, I'm an architect. I go from country to country, and I built buildings. This is my last building in India. I built it in India. After that, I went to Canada. After that, I was in England. I was here. I was in China. If I wanted to learn languages, by now I had a PhD in 20 languages, but I had not built any building. I don't have time. I just built the buildings, for God's sake. That's it. Now, Mr. Hessel, that was known, he knew attitude of this gentleman. He was quite shocked because he thought that because I banged on the table like this, he's going to. He said, do you have a poster of this building? I said, of course I have a poster of that building. I have a book of that building. I will send it to you today. I will send it to you. He said, good, send it to me. Then I know what we are going to do. I'm just saying that what happens to our story. Mr. Hessel said, let's go. He said, you cannot, don't go any deeper. So we came out. 1 week later, I came back. Immediately, I sent him a poster of the temple and a book of the temple for him. And gave it to him, all of that. 1 week later, they started lowering of the cables. without any discussion, further discussion. Because they had the drawings, we had submitted the drawings to them before, all of the drawings, electoral drawings. They did it, and all was done. It's amazing, it's a miracle. The mayor himself told me later on, he said, what did you do with him? What did you tell him? I said, believe me, I didn't tell him anything. He was just thinking that maybe I promised him a room in 7th floor of heaven. I don't know how he did this. I said, believe me, nothing. I just told him this and nothing else. But it's amazing how it worked. And really, later on I thought, Mr. Hassan told me, how did you think about this? I said, believe me, I didn't think about anything. This was the only thing in my pocket. And I touched it. I said, oh my God, listen, I did it. I remember, really, it was amazing that was there. And there were so many beautiful, really, confirmations that you could see. Really, all of this was confirmation of Baha'u'llah. Otherwise, we were just a tool. I mean, as I told you, what was my contribution in sending this lady to go to India to see the temple? He had no idea that she has gone to India. I was very upset that why she has gone. I was hopeful. But this is it, and really happened. We had so many beautiful stories of that period. Dear Mr. Mitchell knows many of them, and in many of his talks, if you find his tapes, you can find that he has shared some of those wonderful stories. And so this is the list of my stories for today. I don't know, because we have 15 minutes. Let me see if I can yeah, I tell you one story that before we, for the time that we have, the last story. When we signed the contract for the excavation of the ARC projects, there were hundreds and hundreds of trucks of earth that should have been excavated and moved out we were bringing many of them. Any earth that was useful, good, we would bring it to the terraces. And some of the, whatever material was extra or was not good, was lots of rocks and lots of things like that, it would be moved by the contractor outside. And the contractor had a rate for excavation. They were doing this. Dear Kamal, that is here, was one of our civil engineers there, and he knows all of that story very well, because all of those material would go to his cousin Ralph was in charge of the building of the International Teaching Center structure, and he was in charge of the upper terraces. So most of the material that would come out from that place would go up to him. One day, I saw that the movement of the earth has stopped, is slowing down, it doesn't work. One day, second day, third day, I was very concerned. I said, why the progress has stopped? I talked to my the contractor's construction manager. I talked to him and I said, what is the situation? Why you are not working? He told me that the situation is very difficult because suddenly the area that we were dumping the material, they have forbidden any extra material to be dumped there. They are forbidden. And now they are charging money for that. In our price that we have given you, we have not considered this extra price. We just thought you can see our rate clearly. We have considered that we excavate and we throw it in the municipality dump yard. but not that we are going to pay money for that. This is difficult. So now it is making it very expensive and we cannot do much. Then what we can do, we are so worried. I was so worried at the beginning of the contract and we are going to have a major claim because we are not talking about few trucks of earth that is going there. You are talking about thousands of trucks that they are going, thousands. And what we are going to do, we are going to spend tremendous amount of money for this subject. Anyhow, then I was thinking about that. I was trying to find a way, negotiating with here and there. But then after 2 days, I saw that the trucks have started moving. They are going. I said, I asked from the construction manager of the project, contractor, I said, what's happening? He said, you know, Mr. Sabat, there is a fire. There was a fire in the dump yard of the municipality. Huge fire. And municipality is begging us to move our earth there in order to kill the fire. so we moved all of our earth was moved there. Not only, and they announced in television in Israel, they announced that Baha'is have been so generous and kind to contribute this to kill the fire. And we were really, it was done as a wonderful achievement. And this was again really nothing but confirmation of Baha'u'llah to solve all of our problems. We have a